Welcome to the Path to Be Well podcast, a podcast about being well. I'm Doug Rawson. Join me, Mark Tremblay and Paul Clory each week as we answer your questions with the sole purpose of helping people who suffer from a chronic medical condition and considering the safe use of cannabis so you can have a better quality of life. In this podcast episode, we are joined by Marie. Marie used a lens to improve the quality of her life with her family. Influenced by her faith, community, and passion for doing the things she used to do, Marie's support and approach to her healthcare journey have resulted in positive changes and a chance to live her full life again. Join us as we learn from Marie the steps she took on her treatment path. Now, let's join in on the conversation.
Welcome to the Path to Be Well broadcast. To all our listeners, we're so happy that you have joined us. And just a little side note that you can also find us on YouTube or the WeDwell Live for our broadcast. So WeDwell.live. This next hour is focused on adding clarity regarding cannabis as a treatment option and whether or not it's right for you, and will bring clarity and help you make informed decisions with respect to improving your quality of life. Now, you may know someone that could benefit from this type of information. So please do us and them a favor by sharing this event. My name is Mark Tremblay, a founding member of Simcoe Holistic Health and WeDwell. I want to share with you how I became involved with cannabis as a medicine. As a teenager, I did sample marijuana and quickly concluded that it just wasn't for me. I will admit, I did find myself judging those who did consume marijuana, thinking that their sole motive was to get high. It wasn't until many years later that I discovered the true medicinal benefits of marijuana. A loved one was diagnosed with MS. After many months of symptom manifestation resulting in sleepless nights, I witnessed firsthand how cannabis can help alleviate symptoms and improve sleep. My eyes were open and my interest further increased. As a result, Simcoe Holistic Health opened its doors in 2013. Since then, we have served nearly 6,000 patients, ranging from ages 3 to 93. I have personally witnessed countless individuals and families experience improved quality of life. Having said that, I've also observed that cannabis treatment is simply not for everyone. And for that reason, I want to caution all of our listeners that cannabis treatment is not a one-size-fits-all. Determining if cannabis is an appropriate treatment requires the attention, care, and focus of your healthcare team. At WeDwell, we are committed to helping people improve their quality of life, and utilizing cannabis as a treatment option is one way to accomplish that. So joining me for this session are my colleagues, Paul Clory and Doug Rawson. So Paul and Doug.
Thanks, Mark.
How are you guys doing this evening?
Oh, we're doing wonderful.
Good.
What do you think our focus should be tonight, fellas? A little be aware?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I would tend to agree with that. What do you think, Doug?
Okay.
Paul, I like your take there about, should we talk about be aware? You know, we've been trying to capture different elements of the patient's journey over the last several weeks. And I don't know about you guys, I do, but I go back and re-listen to these live streams on our podcast. As you know, we've published those, and you can find them on Apple and on Google Music and a bunch of other podcasts. But it's really refreshing to me to hear what we've talked about and what the episodes are about. But I think we're doing a good job covering the consumer's journey. And Paul, I was really left, I think, 2 or 3 episodes ago, we were talking with Francis. And Francis was talking to us about his journey. And I think one of my takeaways on that episode was about cannabis use disorders. And, you know, I think we should keep that front in mind, and we should make that an episode in the new year that we should really talk about that. And the other thing that struck me on that episode with Francis was his quality of life is much more improved now than where he was before. But sometimes we look at it's the magic wonder, it's the magic cure, it's the thing that's going to solve everything. And France is very clear with us that wasn't the case. His quality of life's better. He doesn't need the same amount of medications. He's not, I think he said he used to be down for 24 hours when a migraine would come on. Now he's down for about 3 hours. And I like when we say, what do we want to talk about? Looking at Be Aware, that this is only one tool in the toolbox. We've said that a few times, that this is one tool. It's an adjunct, it's an aid, it's a tool to help you down the path. Those are some of my takeaways.
There's a lot to take away from your takeaway there. The cannabis use disorder, it came up in the context with opiate use or misuse, and it's well documented in media with lawsuits that have gone on with some of the pharmaceutical companies. So I think the average person is well versed in what we're talking about here. But what tends to get shifted aside, at least in the clinic setting, in my experience there, is because cannabis is natural, and I think it's viewed as a plant, and that's where the natural thing comes from versus an opiate, which, well, it's a poppy, but it comes from a lab as well, where if it's natural, it must be safe. And if it's safe, there's no way to misuse it, or it's much harder. It just felt appropriate at that time when it came up in that context and that discussion with Francis, and his point was very valid, that this is something we need to jump on and mention to our listening audience. This does exist. There is a percentage of people that will be affected by this, and you know what? If you think it's you, we're not calling you out to shame you. Or calling you out that if there is an issue, there are ways to fix that. There are numerous help sources, if you will, to assist you with that. And you know what? In the end, maybe cannabis won't be the treatment for you just because it's not working out and it's not being used the way that maybe the way you started using it. And so there's no shame to that. It's just that tool in the toolbox is going to be put back in, and you would approach it with another tool.
Paul, I kind of think maybe one of our next episodes as well, we should do our own SMART goals organizationally. One of my goals this year for Simcoe Holistic Health and Weedwell was to increase our capture of online. And I think we've done a good job with that. But where I think we've really come full circle and where I think we've really done a great job is working with our consumers and bringing the consumer into the conversation. It's added so much more clarity and depth to the messaging when Corrine and Francis and the list goes on shared those little tidbits every episode about the positive things, the positive impacts. And, I think you and I paraphrased this a couple episodes ago. It was the support systems. It was the understanding and the depth that this is a journey and it's not going to happen overnight. Like, this is a long journey. And one thing you said that I really took away and appreciated was most people have suffered with this chronic condition for years. They're at the point now where they kind of want a quick fix solution. And this isn't that. This is really an opportunity to kind of hit the pause button. Let's kind of do a real good assessment. Where are we? Let's get some objective data to go, is this actually going to help you or not? Because it could go backwards. And we said this as well, Paul, 3 times ago, is we also find that we're starting to unpeel layers of the onion. And we're starting to now see, my anxiety is a little better, but now I'm starting to realize I did have some long-standing depression or some long-standing sleep issues. And the list just compounds with each other from there. But what's added depth to our conversations, Paul, and I'm so grateful, is everyone that have graciously come forward and shared their story. And I know I've said this before, but everyone that has done that is helping someone. They're helping someone by sharing their story and telling what their journey has been about.
Just to piggyback off that, Doug, with the SMART goal and where people are at with their improvement, it would be one thing for us to say you can go from A to B, A being very poor quality of life, to B, fantastic quality of life. You're running marathons and stuff like that. But like you said, the patient, the consumer comes in and kind of says it's not exactly that. You brought up Francis already. His A to B, the B isn't perfect. I think our first guest, Joe, still talked about doing it in the context of counseling. Like he was in a much better place mentally, but he couldn't let the other stuff that was assisting him in his life and improving his quality of life go. It just brought him to a better place. I asked a question last week about doing physiotherapy and stuff like that for that consumer. They weren't, but those are stories we've heard. The cannabis got me to a point where I was good enough to start doing the exercises that I needed to because I wasn't able to touch those before. All tying into the SMART goals that you were talking about there, Doug.
So, Paul, I think a lot of these takeaways, it's only broadened our ability to communicate the message coming from our consumers that have shared their stories. Mark, I know you have someone tonight that you'd like to probably introduce to everyone. We can kind of spin off from there and continue our great dialogues that we've had.
Yeah, I would be happy to do so. So tonight we are privileged to have Marie with us. And I think, Paul and Doug, that you would agree that in the past many weeks, our sessions where we actually have a patient with us sharing their story and their journey has been very, very effective. And good pieces of information have been shared, and all to benefit really our listeners. So Marie, thank you for joining us tonight and making time from your busy schedule to be available for us. You shared a little bit with me today how busy you've been in the past little while. So thank you for doing that. And
yes, I have been.
So Marie, I know that you've been treating or you've added cannabis as a treatment option for you for the last couple of weeks. And I also know that you had been considering cannabis for quite some time prior to making that decision. And ironically, that is somewhat typical with many patients that do eventually come to see us at the clinic seeking help and looking for someone with good, strong clinical aids to be able to help and guide the patients. So for you though, Marie, I'd like for you to share just what that has been like prior to introducing cannabis to your treatment plan, because I know you had been contemplating for a while. Was it a gradual thing? Was it one thing, one person you talked to, and you said, I need to do this, I need to move forward? So please share that with us, because many of our listeners will benefit from hearing that, because they're probably going through very similar things.
I struggled with it more because of my beliefs, and I just could not accept to come to a place to use cannabis. But I was experiencing so much pain that I needed something, and I knew I didn't want an opiate. I have been on them in the past. They don't do anything for you. It masks the pain, but it doesn't help you. You don't move forward. It made the problem worse. So I decided, well, I'm going to live with my pain. But then my pain became much, much worse, and I was really struggling with it. And I said, I needed something to help me on a lot of medication, but I needed something to help me with that pain. Not sleeping. I know people that have been on it. They kind of changed my mind. So I first went to a clinic, a place, but there was no doctors involved or anything. And I bought some cannabis oil and I tried it. And the difference was day. Leave this oil on is going to change my life. But I didn't want to continue doing that. I wanted to see a doctor rather than just go in someplace and buy it, because I didn't know what I was getting. So I knew you, Mark. So I thought, I trust Mark. I'm going to go through Mark. And it took a little bit of convincing even then to say, okay, the right thing. But I finally realized I was doing the right thing. I had the peace that I needed. I'm so glad I did, because it has changed my life. It has really changed. The pain that I was in, I'm no longer in that great pain constantly 24/7. And it's made a huge difference. And that I am so grateful for, because being relieved and not constantly, and I'm sleeping. I could sleep 10 hours, which if I got an hour to 2 hours in a night, that was good. And that's what I was exist on. Now I can sleep 10 hours. Actually, my husband calls me on the phone to make sure I'm okay. Because he says, "You're still sleeping?" And I am. So I'm very grateful for that. It's really changed my life.
Wow. Marie, I'm so happy to hear. It's been probably a week or so since you and I have had this kind of conversation. And you were doing better at the time, but it sounds like it's even
Yes.
progressed beyond that. Would that be a safe statement?
Oh, yeah. And I think that one of the reasons why I can sleep to the way I sleep now is because I'm not in the pain I'm in. Constant pain all the time. My pain level, I still have pain. It hasn't completely dissolved, but it's so much less. It's something you can cope with and deal with. Now I've got to deal with the reasons why the pain is there, but I can deal with that because I've had something that is there that has helped me with that. You know, when you're in constant pain, you are down. You are unhappy and be grouchy. Your moods change because of it. And I have found that so much less, like I am not irritated by this any longer. I'm free of that pain. You might hear me call out a little bit if I do something. It's nothing. It's nothing to what it was. If I had a scale and I had to tell you on a scale, I would say I'm down to at least a 4 from I would say 10 plus. It's a huge difference, a huge, huge difference. And as I take it, and I am still, increasing a little bit here and there. So I think it will change even more. My views on it have changed so much because I didn't know what else to do. And I just knew I wasn't going to go to an opiate. So they would prescribe them for me, but I wouldn't take them. So I just refused to take them. But I did have a lot of questions about going on to it. And I'm so glad that the people that I have seen that have used it and the difference in them changed my mind. And
Marie, thanks.
I'm not sorry I've gone there.
Marie, thanks for joining us this evening and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. You said something just at your intro. You were saying that you went somewhere and were able to get some cannabis, but you wanted to procure it with physician oversight. And you said, it's the piece that I needed.
Yes.
And it changed my life. What is the piece? What was the piece that you needed? I wasn't clear on that.
Oh, the piece I needed was the piece I'm a Christian, and I needed to have peace from God to take it. And that was the piece, because I felt after I had taken peace, I had no qualms about taking it anymore. I have seen cannabis use for a lot of years in my family, but it's not medicinal. It is cannabis use. And I didn't like the way they acted with it. And so it scared me from it. It scared me totally from it. I can say, wow, what a difference. I wish I knew it back at least 5 years ago, started this, because it's really changed who I am.
Marie, Mark probably told you before tonight that you sharing your story tonight, you're going to help other people understand, if anything, where they're at and help them move forward with their own personal health journey.
Mm-hmm.
You made a comment that you had a lot of questions before you're ready to move forward. And we find that a lot with new cannabis consumers that are considering this as a treatment option. Would you mind sharing what some of those questions were? What was that internal dialogue that you were having? Because a lot of people are having that. And what were those questions that you were debating with yourself that you needed to secure before you're ready to move forward?
Well, I didn't see it as helping me. I saw it as a drug, as a drug that was helped me, but as a drug that was out there that I would be addicted to. I just look at addictions and I try to stay far away from that. So my biggest question was with it, would I be addicted to something, or would I be on a high? And I didn't want a high. I wanted pain. I wanted medicine, and looked at it as being a medicine, or just like I take medicine every day. Now I see it as a medicine, and I have no questions about it. It is a natural medicine. Grateful for that.
Thanks, Marie. Not uncommon. Some of the things that you brought up about kind of some of that society stigma, the fear of the unknown, about the high, the non-medicinal use. So I'm glad that you were able to bring that to light in your words, that again, someone else is hearing this and knows that they can kind of draw a parallel, that you had a cautious approach, and you didn't say the word, but it sounds like you might have been a little scared or intimidated with starting based on some addiction risk and some other fears that you had. And, you took a cautious approach to get the information needed, but also sounds like your cautious approach helped you get the rewards that you're getting now. And again, that's all the work you've done. You're the one that's doing the hard work, from finding out the information to make informed decisions to, I said this a while ago, unpeel the onion, right? You started by talking about pain, and now you're talking about sleep and improving your quality of life with your sleep. So good work on your part for doing that.
I'm happy that your first toe dip into the pool, so to speak, wasn't a horrible experience, because that might have set you back a long way when you first went out there, and then kind of reset, if you will, or rethought about it, and then saw the doctor. Outside of the people you've already maybe mentioned in your family who are using it for other purposes, did you have much of a support system behind you saying, hey, maybe you should give this a try? What have you got to lose? Maybe kind of along those lines, anything like that?
Yes, I did. I have a friend who is on it. She went on it because of pain and not sleeping. When I saw the difference in her, I started thinking, hey, maybe this is really good. Maybe this is what will really work for me. She has been a big support. And then I shared it with some friends who I respect deeply. They said, try it. It won't hurt you. Try it. Wow. I wasn't expecting support from these people. And then my husband said to me, I think you need to try it. Oh, wow. He's 85 years old and he's telling me, go ahead and try it. And okay. He said, no, I want you to try it. He said, I've watched you suffer. And he said, try it and let's see what happens. He's very happy that I'm on it. He's my biggest support. Excellent. And I appreciate that.
That's excellent. That's something we often hear if people are in their appointment together. It's the spouse that's noticing the difference. He or she is much happier, or gets around the house a lot more, or this, that, and the other thing, right? It's usually the spouse reporting. That's nice to hear. Out of curiosity, though, with regards to the friend that was talking about it, did you find you're using the same type of cannabis, or did you have to go down kind of a different treatment path?
I've gone a different treatment path.
Okay.
I've gone to oils, and she was using gummies. So what the difference would be, but I know I prefer the oils. I believe in oils, natural oils. So I think like her path was different than my path. So, and I really didn't look, even though they were there was lots of cannabis in the first place I went into. So, but they did give me a book, an information book on cannabis, the use of cannabis. So I read that book very carefully, and I thought, well, you know what? There's such a difference in it, but I couldn't. What bothered me about it was, if I'm going into any shop and buying oils, how do I know what I'm really getting? And how do I know what is for me? Because with medication, everybody's different. So this is why I wanted a doctor's to talk to me, because I was afraid I could get something that wasn't good for me from just going into a shop. And this way I know what I'm getting, I know what I'm taking, and I know what I can take, and if I should go up or where my happy place is. So that's the difference for me. And I just needed that. And I'm really glad for that. I just felt I'm not the same as everybody. How can somebody that's, say 100 pounds and somebody who's much heavier take the same amount of medicine and it do the same thing for them? So that is why I chose to go through Mark, because I thought, if I need to change what I'm taking, and it needs to be for me. What somebody else takes really matter to me. I need to know what I need to take.
So Marie, and because I know you personally, I know that you are, despite all of the pain that you had, very still active at home. If you feel so inclined, you could even share the last week or two, and but I'll leave that entirely up to you. If you could tell our audience, prior to cannabis, what was a day in the life of Marie? And because you weren't sleeping at night, you said, you were lucky to get 1 or 2 hours. So if you could just elaborate, prior to cannabis, what a day in the life for Marie looked like.
A day in the life of Marie was very hard before. And kind of put off things that I'm very active, and nothing slows me down, not even the pain. But I find I was just too exhausted to do anything. Then I have 3-year-old grandson. I having him over the last week because I just had another little grandson. So grandma was very, very busy, and he is active. He does not stop. And grandma was very happy to have the cannabis to take at night with him so I could sleep. And this last week, I've been totally exhausted because he's exhausting. And grandma had him till Tuesday. And I found that I was just totally exhausted. Today has been a fantastic day. I'm back to myself where I'm not in that pain and I can do things. So I am busy. I'm always busy. My husband, I care for. He needs assistance. He is very happy too, because I can now, help him in the areas he needs help without saying, oh, I just can't do it today. I just can't do it today. Sometimes I felt bad. Wow, I didn't do it, but I'm back in the place where now I can meet his needs that he needs met. That's a big change. That is a huge change. And it pleases me to be able to do it. So I'm very, very grateful.
Marie,
It's changed me.
My last comment for me tonight, Marie, and I just want to thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your story and giving some people a little insight on what your journey's been like and how someone can draw a parallel. Maybe if you could help, someone tonight is listening and watching, and they may be on the same path that you were on, and they may have questions like you had. A lot of the questions that you said was going on inside your mind, they're having right now. But maybe they don't have the same support. Maybe they don't have the same support network behind them. What would be the one thing you would say to them as they're wondering how to proceed and how to get off this path of considering narcotics and their ongoing chronic pain, what's the one thing you tell them when they're having that internal dialogue? What would you want to share with them to say, here's your part of knowledge you like to give them? And again, thanks for coming tonight.
I would say to anyone that is going through that, reach out to somebody. You reach out, someone to reach out to you, but you reach out to the clinic. It's there, and they will help through that. You'll probably meet other people. Share what you're going through, because we all go through things in life, and we don't reach out to other people. It can be very difficult to the holistic health. Just even if you don't go there, but you need to talk and listen. It's a journey, I think, that every individual may have questions for, but when you go there, your questions will be answered. I did have questions, and they were answered, and the help from them, and going there and just reaching out to someone. And you can find support, because there's a lot of us out there. And if you need to talk to somebody, contact me. I will talk with you and be your support. But you need to reach out to the holistic people, so that you can go through that way. Just don't go into a cannabis shop and buy what you think you need, but reach out to somebody that really knows what they're talking about. And just like you wouldn't go, you go to a doctor when you need help. You just wouldn't go to any person for that help. The same with the medicine now. Don't go to any place, but go to some place that knows what they're talking about, and reach out. And I'm sure you will find what you need, and anything to get off an opiate.
So very well articulated, Marie. So beneficial. What really stands out here is that we and the listeners, we're on a journey. You reach a point where you have to recognize where you're at, and you need to make a decision or a choice, and take that first step. That it's not necessarily going to just fall on your lap. And you've taken
That's
that
right.
first step, and it's obvious now that there's no regrets whatsoever. So listeners need to hear that, because many are in similar situations in their journey. Now, Marie, for those listeners that joined us perhaps a little later, could you elaborate? Like, I think it's been a couple of weeks on when did you introduce cannabis in your treatment plan? And tell us a little bit about the dosing, like you're doing oil sublingually under your tongue, and where you started at, and what that kind of looked like.
I started on a low dose, and I still feel I'm at a very low dose. I'm at 0.5 in the syringe, and it's great. It's I started. I shouldn't say I started at 0.5. I started at 0.4, and now I'm at 0.5, and it's helped tremendously. Like, I cannot believe the difference. Now, when I was doing the first cannabis I got from the place, I didn't know what my dosage was. I used to just do like 3 or 4 drops under my tongue. So, but it wasn't really measured. It was in a dropper. So I really have no idea how much that really difference there, but much greater difference now. It's like, I'm not using a full syringe. I'm using, what a difference. And I'm just grateful. If you've ever lived with pain, constant pain, and it wears your whole body down, just wears you out. And that's where I was, totally worn out. I'm just coming to life. this is just the beginning. So I'm expecting much more, because this is just the beginning where I'm at. I'm expecting much more, and to have even less pain than I have now. And I mean, that's great where I am now.
So, Marie, thank you
you.
so much for sharing your story, your journey. And I know it's of great benefit to all of our listeners. So we'll let you resume your evening as you would typically do so. But thank you again on behalf of the three of us, and even those at Weedwell or Simcoe Holistic Health behind the scenes that you're not seeing here tonight. Thank you so much, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me, and I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a blessed Christmas and a very happy year. Thank you so much.
There is so much to take from that. Really good story. Now, the one thing that struck me as amazing, if you could only see one picture to figure out what she was feeling previously to what she's feeling now. Did you see the smile on her face when she was talking about her 3-year-old grandson and running around with him? It touched both ears, I'm pretty sure, which was awesome. But we talked about this last week, the way people sit and present themselves. Sometimes when they come and see us first, to what we saw with Marie tonight. Yeah, that's an improved quality of life if I've ever seen one. That's just one thing I noticed.
Paul,
good
good observation.
Right,
and when I did see her earlier today, she was sharing, as much as she loved having the grandson at home 24/7, she did have him for about a week. She says, I am exhausted, but I enjoyed it. And she says, I don't know how I could have done it, prior to treatment with cannabis. So that was great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good takeaways here. There's a common theme we're seeing week over week with people. The one thing that I really appreciated that Marie shared right out of the gate, which we actually don't hear a lot. I think because Marie's so early in her journey that we got to get the early picture. And that's one thing we said a few weeks ago, it'd be good to get somebody from the early standpoint as opposed to success 2 years later. And hopefully Marie be willing to come back in a year from now and tell us how her progress has been doing. At the end, she said, this is just the beginning. I'm coming back to life. I'd love to hear what that looks like a year from now. But at the beginning, she said, she had a lot of questions. And it was good to hear what those questions were. And, there was a lot of fear-based stuff. She'd mentioned the word high a couple times. She mentioned about addictions a couple times. A lot of the fear-based concerns where she wanted to get some help and support to guide her down her path. But again, taking a cautious approach about that, which was good. And it was really interesting to hear her change, even I think her own self. She said, I didn't look at it as a medicine. She had her own stigma about what the treatment path could look like. And, she said, now I look at it differently. And I think she'll be an advocate for helping people, no different than some of the friends and colleagues that she worked with initially that kind of guided her down that path for herself. I think you're going to find that with Marie, with others. She's going to, help a lot of people on this journey.
The path that you speak of, what was nice to hear in a way, when she spoke of her friend and her path didn't match her friend's path at all. And we give that caution statement at the beginning, at the end of every broadcast, but it was remarkable. We see that in action. Her path is completely different. They're both experiencing improved quality of life by all accounts, but how they got there was a different way. And so the reaching out that she speaks of, it's a good starting point. But as she pointed out, what works for Bob or Jenny may not work for you. Yeah, so many good takeaways though tonight.
It's going to be interesting as time goes on, hearing the people that have been impacted by the stories that people are sharing. Hearing that, you've mentioned a few times, going back to the first one with Joe, as people share these stories and people get to hear the parallels in their own journey, how it's going to help other people go down their own path to wellness. And that's our goal here, right? We're trying to help people, arm them with the tools, arm them with the solutions to move forward down their own path. The other thing I really appreciated that Marie said tonight, and as people are talking, I'm taking notes down to see how can we change what we do. But she really talked about community, and she's really talking about the community, how reach out. And it doesn't matter if it's to your neighbor, to an online, doesn't matter who it is, just reach out and get some support. The community's there to support you. And I think that's something that we want to do, is continue fostering, building a community where we're not looked at as the go-to. We're kind of a facilitator of knowledge, and we're facilitating this knowledge transfer with consumers. And whether it's Joe or Corrine or Francis or Cynthia or James or Linda or Marie as champions within the group to help people to have that dialogue, I think that's where we're going. And I was really impressed when Marie brought that, that community comment out about reach out. And, she ended up by saying, if you don't have anybody, then reach out to me. I'll help you. And sometimes all people need is just a hand out to guide them down that path, right? They need a guide to guide them down their own journey. So I agree, Paul. There were so many good nuggets, and you know what? Every week there's good nuggets. We can go back through the last several weeks, and there's always one or two. There's always different nuggets that we're getting some really good shares here. So that's mine for that.
Yeah, a good point, Doug. And I couldn't agree with you more. So perhaps there's a listener out there right now who's kind of confined to their home and not knowing where to go and not feeling even well enough to step outside for their own medical reasons. Grab your phone, call someone and ask that person. If that person can't help you directly, that maybe they know someone who can. But make that first step, make that first call, reach out, as Mary was saying, to someone, and eventually you will be in contact with someone that could help or guide you and provide you that support.
That's an excellent comment, Mark, especially in this time of COVID, where we tend to be more in our own silos or small groups or just based in home. And so I really appreciate that, hearing that myself. Just one other thing. There's lots of other things that we could touch on, but she talked about opiates. In an interesting light, one we haven't presented yet, because we're not here to say what's better for you this way or that way. But it was an interesting take on it. And she talked about masking pain. And I think her words were, she can't move forward. It doesn't move you forward. And what happens is you kind of just end up in a rut. Whereas the cannabis she described as getting her to a place where she can now deal with the reasons the pain is there. I found that to be another remarkable comment. Cannabis as a tool in the toolbox. But she drew her line in the sand, and that's her line, that opiates aren't for me. And she gave us the 2 or 3 reasons why. But it was interesting to hear it painted in that light. Something we're all aware of. I think many people are aware of, but highlighted very well by Marie.
Yeah.
No, you go ahead, Doug.
I just want to take off from what you said, Mark, and what you said, Paul. The whole reaching out comment. We're days away. Christmas is before us, and a lot of people are blessed to spend some time with family, and it is the family time. And Paul, you had the extra element about COVID and the isolation, and our support networks may not be around, but not everyone has what we all tend to take advantage of at times. And some people don't have the support. Some people don't have the network. Some people don't have care systems and safety networks and family doctors, and people look in and see how they're doing. And a lot of people are suffering. And we're seeing a lot of stats right now that anxiety's up, depression's up, stunt driving's up, suicide rates are up. Everything is up. And part of that we can contribute to some of the COVID stuff that everybody's being affected by this. But we've got to remember there's also a lot of the people that are marginalized that don't have the support systems. And I think more than ever, we really got to emphasize, reach out. It doesn't matter who, reach out. At no time do we want to see anyone in harm's way. Do reach out. There's always going to be someone on the other end of the phone that's ready to take a call to help you out. We just want to make sure that people know that there are supports out there to help. So do reach out. Sorry, Mark.
And your point actually fit in more with the conversation we're having. Mine is a tangent from that. But worthy of mentioning is that Marie, although a week after starting treatment, saw really noticeable results. Worthy of mentioning that may not be the case for everyone. We know it's not the case for everyone. The level of relief that the patient will see is going to differ, and how quickly it starts to take effect in the body, and that you start noticing the results can vary as well. We've all met patients that it took multiple weeks, and then gradually they're starting to see, oh, I was just about to give up on this, and I'm starting to notice moderate improvement. And as they continue down the path, it did continue to improve. So, not to expect that everyone's going to be like Marie, because we know patients are all different. In fact, she said that. And now you respond to the treatment.
Well, guys, I think I was saying at the start of this, Mark, I think you're away for a second, that one of our commitments this year was to do more online, and we were trying to do more with helping people online. We were doing that before COVID became a thing. We can only help so many people in our traditional brick and mortar fashion, and we have a much farther reach doing our online capture. And I know from my perspective, we have done that. We've done a great job of trying to increase our capture online, but we committed with going live weekly. And we've done that. And guys, this is our 15th week or 15th hour of content we've now published. And people have an encyclopedia of information that we're answering people's questions, and we're providing them information. And it's not one-sided bias towards what we want to hear. We've talked about the goods, the bads, and this is only one tool. So I think we should be proud of that. I know we're all committed to continue doing this. And a year from now, we're going to say, guys, we've got 65 hours of content built up for people to watch. So, I think we've done a great job in that element. I've enjoyed doing these and look forward to more and answering more clarity points for people as they can go on their own path. While we talk about that, why don't we, we've talked about our path course over the last few weeks, and I think people know about that and they can search it on our question, but maybe we could talk about the challenge, which is an abbreviated form of our signature course, our health challenge. Maybe one of you guys could start us off on introducing the health challenge, which we've got some next session starting in January, and we'd love to have more people on that.
Well, I'm happy to do the abbreviated form. Notice Paul was ready to jump in there, so I took charge. Yeah, absolutely. So as Doug was saying, it is a 5-day challenge where it's 5 steps in 5 days to improve your quality of life while considering if cannabis is indeed right for you or for a loved one. We're confident that the lessons will bring clarity and allow you to make some informed decisions regarding your health and wellness goals. For example, on the first day, you will learn about factors that affect your mental, social, and physical well-being, and how they are interrelated and impact many facets of your life. On the second day, you will set some SMART goals whereby all future actions, treatments, and therapies can be measured against. And on the third day, you will learn about the 4 methods of cannabis consumption and compare costs for each method. This will bring clarity on what method or perhaps methods that are best suited for you. And on the 4th day, we will provide keys to help you custom design your treatment plan while considering the impact, whether positive or negative, on your current medication. And then on the last day, we will provide tools that will add clarity to your treatment progress and assist you in making informed decisions about the appropriateness of your treatment. Now, although there is no fee for this challenge, you will need to invest 30 minutes of your time each day. And to register, and Doug, correct me if there's a new one now, but weedwell.solutions. And I believe that January 4th is the new one starting up.
Well, Mark, I've said all I need or want to say tonight. I could go for another hour or more, but we'll leave it abbreviated at our 1 hour that we started with. So I'm good. I'll hand it to Paul, and then let's close tonight.
One other plug for me, weedwell.tips. And I think it's something I'm going to touch on next time when there's a little bit more time. But weedwell.tips. We're talking in terms of cannabis here and how it may or may not be part of your treatment plan. For those who it may not be a part of your treatment plan, there's still lots of actionable items here you can find at weedwell.tips, as well as the path to be well. We're talking whole health, not just cannabis, but I think we'll touch on that a little bit more next time, Doug. Weedwell.tips, a lot of actionable items to help you out on your health journey.
Excellent. What a great evening and session. Very valuable information that was shared. But I'd like to remind our audience again that cannabis is not for everyone. And all of these stories that you hear are specific to that individual. The results may vary, and the appropriateness of that treatment might be different for yourself. So we always encourage our listeners to check with their health professionals to see if this is indeed an option for all of our patients, for anyone considering it. So unless there's anything from Doug or from Paul, I'd like to bring this fabulous session to a close by saying we look forward to seeing all of our viewers in the future. And until then, on behalf of my colleagues Paul and Doug, and those behind the scenes that are not always so obvious, we'd like to say until the next time, be well.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Path to Be Well podcast, a podcast about being well. Make sure to visit our website at weedwell.com, where you can subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in this week's show, we'd appreciate you sharing this podcast or leaving a comment or rating. We look forward to you joining us next time. Until then, be well.